has been a 3-day program, and the last 2 days the focus was on higher education, and today we have been focusing on school education. So we are having a host of panel discussions, and now there is a panel discussion on adopting a blended learning model in school education. So it is my privilege to introduce the panelists and the moderator, and after which I will request the moderator to take over. So just let me introduce our panelists today. We have Ankit Agarwal, the director of the Doon Global School. Welcome, Ankit.
Thank you.
Next,
Thank you.
welcome. Next, we have Dr. Manimikalai Mohan, founder and managing trustee of SSVM Institution. Welcome to Dr. Mohan.
Yeah, good evening, sir, and good evening to all.
Good evening to all. Next, we have Dr. Ritu Chauhan, Vice President of MAHE and Principal of Manipal International School in Bangalore. Welcome, Dr. Chauhan. We have Malini Narayanan, Principal of the Army Public School. Welcome, Malini.
Namaskar.
We have Dr. Kavita Vajpayee, Director of the International School of Thrissur. Welcome, Dr. Kavita. We have Sakshi Sujatia, Director of the Nirja Modi School, Udaipur. Welcome, Sakshi.
Thank you.
And we have to moderate this esteemed set of panelists in the discussion. Dr. Chandrakanta Pathak, Principal and CEO of HBB Global Academy. Welcome, Dr. Pathak.
Thank you so very much, Asa.
And with that, I would like to hand it over to you. And I'm sure we'll have very insightful and impactful discussion on the panel. Over to you, Dr. Pathak.
Thank you, everyone. Our topic for the day is absolutely relevant to the current situation. Adopting a blended learning model in school education, opportunities and challenges. We all have been already introduced, so I am not taking time for that. I'll come directly to the topic. In the month of March of the previous year, we all witnessed an unprecedented situation where the entire nation's school system was forced to shut down due to COVID-19 pandemic. Now, this deprived the student of the teacher-guided learning, which is crucial to support their growth and development, especially in their formative years. During this time, we also witnessed an incredible phenomenon. Teachers from various institutions from across the country collaborate in the creation and adoption of various digital infrastructures in a very short span of time to facilitate remote teaching and learning. This required teachers to learn and implement new technologies that they were not even aware of before. This was a remarkable feat. It has been over a year since our schools, colleges, and universities were shuttered. We have since faced numerous challenges and overcome many of them in our endeavor to create feasible and inclusive digital infrastructures to support students' online education effectively. These infrastructures are beginning to emerge as viable solutions to a long-standing problem of access to quality instruction in India. So see the positive side of it. These platforms are rapidly evolving into what many are referring to as virtual classrooms, equipped with all necessary paraphernalia required to implement the methods of modern pedagogy. Differentiated and self paced learning have become a real possibility with virtual classrooms. In today's discourse, we will explore the nature of emerging digital tools and try to develop a better understanding of how we might best use them to create and adopt a blended learning model that would address some of the lingering challenges in education and bring about positive changes in classroom practice, which we all can use in our day to day life. My first question goes to Mr. Ankit. During the past year, we have discovered and experimented many digital tools that could potentially be used in our regular classroom practices to improve teaching and learning experience. So the question to you is, in your opinion, are there any digital tools and features of online education that you think could be integrated with regular face to face classroom practice to enhance the process of teaching and learning? Definitely when we resume in physical capacity. So, could you share some of them with us? I'm sorry, Mr. Ankit Agarwal.
Thank you, Ms. Patak, for introducing me and giving me the opportunity to start today's discussion. To start with, I will, instead of jumping into some new platforms or new tools which are available, I would like to start with the thought that once we plan to bring things back into normalcy with the blended learning approach, we need to continue to divide our timetables or our delivery models into both online and offline sort of a teaching, wherein the technology or the digital platforms which we have been using till now are not overlooked or put aside. To start with, some portion of our curriculum has to be given in the same online format so that the adaptability of the children continues in that particular zone or in the delivery service model. For basic, when we talk about large percentage of schools, the two things which will be the crucial will be here will be the basic MS Office, the adaptability of using various tools within the MS Office like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other tools within it. And the second will be adaptability to communication, that is basic listening, speaking, reading, writing skills of English, for which a lot of tools are coming these days into our framework. So these two will be the basic requirements of the new age blended learning when we move ahead. When it comes to tools which are available, as I mentioned, MS Office is there, Adobe is there. Then you have to use the internet tools like YouTube to showcase certain videos which are educative in nature. Then obviously the modern day tools which include like Padlet, which is like more of a digital notice board where teachers can create a small individualized or personalized notice boards within their class groups or within their subject groups. Options like Jamboard, which are like a virtual or a smart whiteboard, which can be incorporated in the day-to-day style teaching, which helps to elevate the technology into the modern day teaching learning process. So these are the starting tools to make our education delivery interesting. We can incorporate the tools like Kahoot, which are game-based learning again a very fantastic way to create the interest among the students by means of fun, by means of putting little bit of fun element into the learning, and of course integration of these with the technology, that is your ERP systems, your communication systems like WhatsApp and other learning management systems will be the key. Here we have to remember majority of the school, that is 95% of the schools, are still unaware of these particular basic requirements, that is proficiency in basic computer skills and basic English skills. These two skills will be the key for the blended learning for the future. And yes, many tools will come and go. We need to adapt to them. We need to continue to give proper time into our delivery model, and then only the actual sense of blended learning will be achieved from our side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ankit. You have named many tools, and I'm sure there must be many more which each and every institution is using. Especially, we can also use these tools for the assessment system. So, definitely, the one positive side of it is that we have got some technological things which we can use in our day-to-day life when we will have face-to-face classrooms. One of the advantages of the remote learning revolution is that it has provided teachers with a number of digital tools to keep students engaged even beyond classrooms. Learning activities based on games, as you said very well, is an example of this. It is posted that this will lead to better student engagement and outcomes. So, looking at all this, Dr. Kavita, my next question to you is in your view, is the digital technology revolution in education helping schools and institutes to improve student engagement and outcome-based learning? Dr. Kavita.
Thank you so much for the question. And I first would like to be sure if I'm audible enough. I hope I'm audible because I'm feeling some kind of the disturbance in the broadband connectivity today. So thank you. Okay, so the question which you have asked me, first of all, thank you for that question. And I would like to answer this question in two parts. Rather, all of us would agree that this question needs to be answered as well as understood in two parts. The reason is the COVID era as well as the post-COVID impact of it. So when we talk about the COVID era, so of course at that time it was by force, or rather it was an emergency remote teaching which we all had to get into. So that time there was no choice. I mean, we were just given that the teachers have to get into the online teaching and learning mode. So were the children, the parents, children, teachers, all the communities tried to come to the terms with it. And of course, in this process, I think each and every stakeholder evolved, whether it is exploring rest of the available platform or it is, teaching in best possible manner to minimize the gap what these children may face or they are facing in terms of learning and so on. And of course, to make the teaching and learning more interesting and more engaging. So there, what happened is the exploration and the process of getting evolved was on. But when we talk about a post-COVID era, or maybe the time when we are gearing up to start the school, and in some places even the schools have already been started, then we actually have to start thinking once again from the grassroots level, because it depends a lot upon the vision of the school, whether the technology is a part of the vision of the school. Of course, before COVID, it may or may not be, because there are few schools which come from the old school of thought. They feel that human intervention should remain always there and more than 90% should be human intervention. But COVID has taught us no, technology is there to stay, blended learning is there to stay, and it is there to help us making teaching learning more engaging and more interesting. So of course the vision of the school is something. Now the vision of the school, how we have to bring in. So we have to work upon what the leadership as well as the practice of teaching community is there. These two things are very important because they have to, sit, they have to reflect upon how the period of 1.5 year went by. What all things are there which we can actually continue in the, the offline mode also, and how we can take or how we can make the best out of the blended learning mode. So there, the pedagogical practices needs some some retrospection. There has to be a perception of using technology in education. So the pedagogical changes or pedagogical evolving is something which is required. Then the school has to be well equipped, because when we talk about well equipped, it's just not only about the educators and the students, but even when we talk about the technology, the digital resources, so the physical environment, the resources, everything has to be available. So that well-equipped school structure, the environment is something what we are looking at. And then the school should actually develop and offer a framework for research as well as a research-based model to reflect upon, to understand and to improve their own practice to achieve. Talking about the pedagogical improvements, that is with the help of the digital technologies, and there's also a need of doing a lot of research, the practice oriented methods that help schools and teachers themselves to reflect and investigate their own practices. That's very important. Then only what we can reach out to a model which is blended in nature and which is actually available to implement. Otherwise we will keep on doing this trial and error method, which is actually certainly not the, I mean, not at all advisable at this point of time. Because the aim is to examine how the model can be used to evaluate the existing practices of the school, which were used earlier as example, and to make recommendations for improving the practices as a blended model. So when we talk about the learning outcomes, so for learning outcome, the research-based approach is something which is very, very important. And then we have to actually think on two particular questions, like how does the innovative digital school model help to identify good practices and points for improvement in using digital technology, number one, so that the school can, change for the best, and the blended model could continue with those lucrative as well as those innovative platforms which we have been using so far. And how does this model, it should reveal the essential differences in using digital technology for schools, changes between pre-COVID era as well as what we did during the COVID, so that we can reach out to a conclusion where we can actually find out what is the right way of blending teaching and learning. So when we talk about the digital technology revolutions, it needs a lot of simple.
I believe,
That
Ms. Kavita,
now
there is some issue with your connection. Before we come to for the next question, please try if you can do something. Try to conclude this.
I'm really sorry, but in the beginning also I said that somehow today I am facing some connectivity issues. If that's the issue, then you all
It is
can continue. Maybe
showing
if
that
I'm able
where we need
to
to
I can
work.
continue.
All right. All right. Conclude your question. Answer. I believe there is some problem with the connection with Dr. Kavita. Uh, Anyways, I move forward for my next panelist, Dr. Macaulay. Dr. Macaulay, formative assessment, feedback, and testing are essential to make the teaching learning process effective. And what always you will hear from the teachers, correction or assessment is the lengthiest part. Now, in this way, with the help of technology, however, these are highly labor intensive tasks: feedback, testing, and assessment. But on the part of the teachers, and it require a low student to teacher ratio. In some of our schools, we have as much as 40-50 students, which makes the teacher's life little more difficult. So my question to you is, how might these new tools and features of online education enable us to better incorporate assessment, feedback, and testing in our regular face to face classroom practice to improve the learning experience and learning outcomes? Dr. McCullough.
There is some other noise also coming in. I'm so sorry. Ms. Patil, there's some noise coming. If we could all mute ourselves except for the speaker, I think it will be clearer.
It's a very good question. When Angit sir and when Kavita was speaking, so Angit sir was talking about the various portals which is available for teaching. Of course, when the COVID had started last March, the teachers were not so tech savvy. But today the teachers have upgraded themselves technology wise, and at the same time, to talk about technology also, there are a wide range of portals now available. When the COVID started, we had very few, but now to name it, you have hundreds. So it's now becoming day by day user friendly, and every time when a portal is opening up, they know that what is the drawback of another portal, and they are able to analyze where we can correct the students. So for example, when you take into consideration test analysis, of course, when you have a regular physical school, you will have bundles of papers for the teachers to correct. But now the correction has made very easy also auto correction. So once you feed the question paper, and once the answer key is also feeded inside, relevant to it, it matches and it does some correction. So if you take a cloud-based student evaluation tools are available now for better and quicker results. That's what I have to say. And parallelly, we are also using it. We have a very good LMS portal where the analysis is not missed, and the parents are able to get instant messages of their test results. And again, the teacher can create n number of online tests. So for this online test, again, there are so many portals which help them in a lot of question papers where they can drag and they can paste it and they can go. And also the surveys using the easy form of builder basis. So the teachers now, it is only like they are all, to be very frank, the teachers majority depending upon the school. See, if the owners are very clear how this portal has to go and how they have to give that value education to the children of their schools, this is going to be very useful. And again, enabling the student to submit the assignments, again their projects via online and or through mobile app for any education pattern, it is again useful. And now this module is not only using the laptops, anything, even over phone, even using iPad, even using a tab, any system, the child can really use this assessment system. And again, there are lots of advantages based on the assessment system. Is when an online examination is going, let us say now board has got objective type and the subjective type. So for objective type, once the children start opening the question paper, there are a fraction of seconds only left for them to read the question and answer the question. So it's multiple choice. So the teacher needn't sit and check every child's paper. So after they complete, by the end of the last question, the next fraction of second, they get their number of questions answered and their total. And again, when it comes to the subjective type, of course, the children write the test, they scan the paper and they put it inside. It is quite little tedious, where the teachers have to download and then do the evaluation on the screen itself, and they can upload. Where now parents, even if the child says that the teacher didn't do the correction, it's very simple. When they have a parents teachers meeting, the teacher says, now you open the paper which has been corrected from the student side. So that children cannot escape a situation which was earlier during the physical class, so where they can tear their papers, throw it in the dustbin, and they can go. Now it is everything inside the portal where they cannot escape. And again, trustworthiness, now the parents are able to understand how trustworthy their children are. and it is more secured. Now, even if the child has deleted the paper from the system, the parents can again retrieve and see all the papers. So it is very secured and can be based on multiple devices. So now, even if the child is doing it in the laptop in one device, still the parent can open up in another device and they can check what has been happening. So this is now become what to say, day by day it is quite a big challenge for the digital world and the students. So this blended learning, I will always say, blended assessments are also very good, and flexible assessment models are available, because as now I told about the multiple choice and the subjective type of, then assessing the student regular intervals also is very useful in this assessment models. So then the students cannot cheat, or they cannot what to say, create fake informations to the parents stating that the first rank student also has got the least marks, so there's no difference between my marks. So now a parent can go inside the portal and they can also see the consolidated mark of the class, and they can see the average of the particular subject. So now to say, the digital assessment has become very vibrant, and the teachers are having what to say, a little easy task only, I have to say, where from the part of the students it's become crucial. But one side you have proctoring, where if the child is going to copy, it will automatically get disconnected, so the child cannot copy. There are so many ways that things can be assessed, and we'll have to say this same blended learning can happen both physical, even in the physical session, and even in the online session.
I believe even you have some connection issue, but we can hear you.
Yeah, no, I have completed my information.
All right. Thank you so very much, Dr. McLeod. I move to my next panelist, Ms. Sakshi. Integrating digital tools in regular practice to create a blended learning model will likely present a number of challenges, including cultural, and psychological. Could you shed light on some of the key challenges that teachers have been facing and are likely to face while integrating the tools of remote learning into their practice? Also, how could we address these issues?
Thank you, ma'am, for the question. Good evening, all. So, yeah, coming to the challenges, I would say making a shift from traditional teaching to online teaching was itself a big challenge for teachers because of its suddenness with which they were plunged into this new mode of teaching online. There was so little preparation everywhere, and teachers had to face a problem there. Next, I would say teachers, not every teacher was tech savvy, not every teacher was very familiar with the tools, the technology. So there it became a hurdle, and the teachers had to struggle a lot with the tools like video conferencing or presentation making softwares, or I would say the ERPs with which they were managing the classrooms online. So it became a problem, and along with their basic teaching job, this became another responsibility for them. And when it was complete lockdown, they had to take care of their families also. A lot of teachers would come to me and would say, ma'am, we have this thing going at our house and this and that, and it actually became a problem to manage everything all together. Nextly, I would say many teachers discovered that students were not engaging well in the online sessions as much as they used to do when the teaching was physical in schools. So teacher had to put a lot of efforts there, because they were not able to come up, they were not able to open up earlier. And whenever you ask them questions, they would either turn off their mics, they would turn off their videos, or they would make an excuse of their network connectivity. So this was another problem that the teachers were facing. And along with that, the parents were hovering during the online classes, which was also a challenge because now the teacher is not teaching the students. They somewhere know that yes, they're sitting with their parents and the parents are also listening to them. So any mistake, and they would get nervous. But we all are human beings. We can make mistakes, but for them it became a big challenge that how to be perfect in everything, how to handle the tools, how to be perfect with their lessons, with their English, with their Hindi, all the subjects. So there I think we had to counsel them that it's okay, you can make few mistakes, few technological mistakes, it's okay, nobody is going to judge you. And we all have moved into this mode of learning right now, so it would take some time before you get used to it. Also, when we are talking about technology, we would definitely talk about network, internet connections. So I think this was another problem that teachers can face or will face with the tools, because with tools, network is a big problem. Like we have a fresh example right now that a network connectivity error can actually interrupt a lot. It can just we it just get lost, the flow gets lost. So this is another problem that I think that needs a solution. But yeah, of course, there is no solution unless and until you are in a good room with good connections and with good network. And of course, with that, another thing that comes with it is the data usage. A lot of teachers had this problem of data exhaustion. They would not allow me to take more classes because the data gets exhausted. Now, every teacher had a Wi-Fi at their home, so this become another problem that, ma'am, we cannot take classes because we have exhausted the data, the internet data. So, daily I could not pressurize them to get their phone recharged again for the internet. But yes, because of that, we had to restrict our classes and to a certain number of classes so that they have proper internet. Also, when it comes to restriction, keeping in mind the health, I think this was another problem. A lot of teachers had to face this problem, and they would come up with health issues like migraine and digital eye strain and severe backache, that they were facing. And not only teachers, I would say students also, because parents would come and tell us that we cannot attend online classes, we cannot spend this much time on a screen because the eyes get strains, and we have headache and migraine, etc. So we had to deal with that as well, and the teachers actually had to deal with this because it's not only taking the class. There is a lot of other work as well that they had to manage. They had to correct the copies, they had to submit the attendance, they had to do a lot of managerial work also. Along with this, I would say not every subject can be taught with that much efficiency online. Of course, there are tools now that we have discovered, but like for example, math. When you, with every question, with every problem, when you have to be very fluent in writing, and that flow has to be there. So it doesn't happen online. Even if you have a digital board with you, that fluency would not be there. And of course, then if it is cost effective, not everybody would have it at home. So I think these are some problems that the teachers have faced, are facing, and will face with tools if it is done in the blended learning approach. Thank you.
Ma'am, you are mute.
Ma'am, you're mute.
There are challenges as far as technical and technology is concerned. I absolutely agree with you that parent entered into the teacher's home now. There was no privacy for anybody. As you were saying, they were hovering over, so the teachers were having a bit of psychological thing also. But overall, I believe in last 1.5 years we have overcome and we have learned a lot. I'm moving to my next panelist, Dr. Ritu. Along with teachers, schools and educational institutes have also been facing major administrative challenges in trying to make significant structural changes to accommodate the digital learning tools in their teaching and learning practices. In your point of view, my question to you is, what are some of the important challenges that administrators and leaders should work to address to effectively adopt the blended model of learning in their institutes?
Yeah, hi.
Dr. Ritu.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everybody. So by now, I think we all know what is blended learning. Let me just rephrase it. It's a combination of online and offline learning in a way that the one complements the other. So for students, they should find relevance in both the platforms. So let me come to the question now directly. The first and the foremost challenge for me as a leader, or for my management, or for all of us, is the availability, accessibility, and affordability of the technology and its tools. Now, for any school, we all are in leadership position. We know budget is very important for us. And in this scenario, surely as leaders and management people, we need to see the expenses which school has to incur. Already we are struggling. Fees is not coming, online is not effective, and so many other things. So I can relate here that as a school, my school has to purchase the tools, the devices, the equipments, which will surely make this teaching learning process very efficient and smooth. But at the same time, lot of cost is involved in managing or procuring that. Then from students and their parents side also, see, offline they are coming to school, you are teaching maybe 3 days or 2 days in a week, other 2 days or 3 days they are at home with online platforms. So for them also, it's a big challenge to arrange these devices and tools or internet and other stuff. Secondly, the major challenge for leaders, I feel, for teachers, as Sakshi ma'am has already said, the content delivery by the teachers and its acceptance by the students. Now, what is happening in blended learning? We are mixing this traditional, what you say, face to face interaction with online technology. Now, teachers need enough time to acquire new technical skills, prepare their lectures, and when it comes to the school staff, whole school staff has to be involved in the planning process when it comes to logistics and other arrangement. And the major challenge, which is more with the mindset of the parents and the students, that traditional classrooms are more effective and knowledgeable compared to the online. So, here, as leaders, as principals, we have a major challenge to convince our parent community about this particular model. So, it's very difficult for schools to understand or to decide when to go for face to face, when to go for web based. Another challenge, as everybody, you have spoken about assessments during this online platform. It's not very easy. Yes, tools are available, still not 100% accuracy. Then we have this technological knowledge is less, experience is less, training, skill, all these will become a lot of like kind of barriers for the teachers when they deliver. So if technology and proper training and planning is done, then definitely teachers can personalize the instructions through the technology, group activities, all these projects, what we do, collaboration, everything can be done so beautifully if we adopt this blended learning. Only thing is, to become digitally literate institution, it is desirable by the management to frame the transparent policies, methods of teaching, layout of pedagogy, and yes, we need to do something to make it successful in classes, both online as well as offline. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Over to you. Ma'am, you are mute. Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Ritu. I move to our next panelist, Ms. Malini. As Dr. Ritu has already raised couple of questions, training, etc. So adopting new tools demand teachers training and professional development programs. So my question to you is, what kind of initiatives need to be taken to train and prepare teachers to adopt the tools of blended learning model?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am, and happy to be here in the panel. Lot of people have touched on many things. Of course, Sakshi mentioned about how it was difficult to migrate from real to the virtual. And I think it would be an understatement to say that it was a tectonic change for the teachers, because each of them had different capacities. And when they are in school, we were largely dependent on the LMSs within the school. And these LMSs used to be dumped in the server, and you didn't need great technical skills to access it through the board that was already placed in the school. So when the schools closed, suddenly there was a vacuum, because everything that they were familiar with were all left in the school, and they were all at home. And so it was like starting right from scratch. So it started from WhatsApp, and I'm sure everybody did that nascent steps of how to migrate, until we discovered that the whole world, in the MNC world, Microsoft Teams is a common word. Zoom was always used, and we were quite ashamed to know that we really, as educators, did not enter that space at all. And suddenly, when it came to us, and it was quite a revelation. It was like a that light blinking, and suddenly everything that looked dark, bleak, and unconnected suddenly came to light. And I think that is a eureka moment for the entire education sector in India and the world. And I wouldn't say it for just India, because the entire education world understood that they had missed out on great opportunities. So when it started, of course, like Ritu ma'am also mentioned, that teachers were in their different stages of learning. Like children are in their different stages of learning always, even though they are in the same class. You would know that there is such diversity in learning. So is true for the teacher community, because you may have 100 teachers, but each of them at different steps of the ladder. So to rally and get them all together was the biggest challenge. So the only way we could do was, of course, get some professional help. I think Google and Microsoft and Adobe have done a yeoman service in coming together and helping the teachers upgrade. So they came in to help, and that was the initial handholding. So quickly, there was a cascading effect. They went on to incentivize this whole thing. They said, we would identify master trainers for you, and let's do this as a cascading effect, because it's impossible to come to every school. Look at the millions of schools we have within the country, and look at the reach that Microsoft has. Very little. When we talk about 2 billion students out of school in the whole world, we are just talking about a tip of the iceberg that we've touched, and that too in the urban community. So therefore, I think it was a starter. But then what happened later is, it's all respect for the educators, because all the time that we ever used to talk about self-learning, self-motivated, self-directed learning, all those words actually came to reality now, because every day they would sit and look for a lesson plan. Every evening they will go to the net and learn how to use it. So that is the kind of push, because it's like getting pushed into ice cold swimming pool, and you swim and survive. That's your only way to get out, because next morning you have to face the parents at home who are sitting with you to take the lesson. So you better be good, and there was no way. And as leaders, I think all we did was to encourage, motivate, sit with them while they were training, and trained with them, because it was important to lead by example. So things that you've not heard about and things you haven't learned were, I think, a great moment. So there was a lot of peer learning, and of course, internationally, the community came together. The number of webinars that we have done to bring in teachers of other schools across the world to understand that, you know, this terrible thing is just not happening to you, it's happening to the whole world, and everybody across the country is facing a similar kind of problem. So there was a lot of solace in community, teaching community rallied together, and I think that was a great movement. So coming together, collaborative learning, and of course today we are not simply talking about how to access Zoom, how to do corrections. We are today talking about how to use Canva as a tool to make posters, and teachers and children learning together. I think the greatest movement that's happened is, kids who are in the 5th and 6th are so digitally savvy that we've now got a team of 2 teachers and 10 children learning from each other. So I think that is the greatest movement, and that reserve of, I know I'm the teacher, you are being taught, all that has gone. Now everybody knows that they jolly well be in the level playing field, and it's learning mutually. And the kids, I must salute them, because 11th and 12th standard children have rallied to help and mentor the other children. So it's not just about teacher training, Mrs. Patel, it is about parent training too. How does my child upload that assignment? How does my child access his class? So you still have queries like, where is my link, where is my class? So questions like that. So and I must tell you also that I come from a school which is the Army Public School. We have 137 schools across the country, so we are a huge network, and we are spread over the remotest part of the country, which means I am near the border area near Pakistan, I am near the border area near Gujarat, I am in the border near Arunachal Pradesh. So we have schools in those areas where the access, though we are very, very well equipped, we are welfare schools of the army, but connectivity is a challenge. All this is a challenge. So teaching the parents, teaching the children. So now the teacher realized that I have to first equip myself, train the child, and then train the parent, because ultimately I can only get the child into class if my parent is trained. So it's a big movement, and that's kind of brought everybody together. And I think whatever has happened for good, because of course, the negative impact of COVID is one part of it, the loss and the sadness and all of that. But I think it's been a great movement for the education sector. We wouldn't have been, as leaders, been able to motivate, train the whole batch to reach a certain level, not even in a decade. We've tried very hard with ERPs and the smart boards. You would need monitoring systems to find out who logged in, who used this class, who didn't. So all those stories are over. Now we are in a new age. So if blended teaching comes in, we are not going to lose that precious training and the investment that we've done on ourselves. We are going to use it very much in the face-to-face space. And I think it'll be great fun to see how kids bring in their mobiles to school, where we used to prevent them, saying, keep it out at the gate, you need to deposit it with the teacher. Now teacher has to say, use that mobile to do the assessment that I'm showing on the board, you access your Mentimeter and give me the score. So that is the kind of blended learning that we would be actually bringing into the class. Thank you so much.
Thank you all the panelists for the first round, but we have exhausted our time limit. We are left out only with 20 minutes. So when I'm coming with my second set of questions, none amongst us will get more than 2.5 minutes. So try to stick to that. Otherwise, at that point of time, wherever you are, I have to say stop and I will move to the other panelist. My next question is to Mr. Ankit. Access to quality education and trained teachers in our country has been restricted to a few pockets in urban areas. How might we use recent technological innovations to bring quality education to the grassroots across the entire country? And more specifically, how might technology enable trained teachers to deliver quality education to the students in remote areas. Mr. Ankit.
Thank you, ma'am. I believe Madam Narayanan has put quite a bit of foundation for this particular approach, wherein how we can collaborate, how we can reach out to the needy schools, or the schools which are not still on board with the modern day technology, or still trying to bridge that gap, which is quite essential today in terms of technology and the usage of modern day tools. To start with, I would definitely feel the idea is we all work in various clusters. We have sahodayas, and we have a lot of social organizations also, like Rotary and Lions Club. We need to bring these people on board to adopt certain schools from far-flung areas, or from the rural belt. And with the use of our existing technologies, we can help in setting up whatever the need of the hour at those schools could be, right from the technology interface, right from teachers training, empowering, onboarding both teachers and students from those schools with the modern day requirements of teaching and learning process. So that is something as a start we can do. Going forward, we all have some sort of larger rooms or amphitheaters, or showcase areas. We can open our school campuses to nearby schools, do a lot of teachers training with them, do a lot of workshops with them, or showcase certain good practices, best practices, which we have done at our school with these partner schools, or with the schools which we are adopting into our interface. So that's a very nice positive mode to bring a healthy learning environment into the schools which require, or which are still not up to the mark, or still trying to come to the desired level. So these are certain things which we can do. We have to open up both our campuses to bring these people into our campuses. Also, use our technology to reach to their campuses by means of virtual, which can be helping in doing some teachers training, some workshops, certain peer learning activities, sharing our best practices. So that is how we can actually reach out to the rural or the far-flung areas which require our assistance. And yes, as Madam has correctly put in, we need to put a lot of emphasis on opening our improving our attitude towards incorporating the digital infrastructure within our space, like usage of our computer labs to maximum. Most of the schools which we are talking about in rural areas may not have, or may be having, or may not be having the best of setups. Let them also invest in these setups. Let them use these setups to its potential, because until unless we use these setups, then only that digital revolution which we are talking about, or the new age adaptability of learning, will not come into these setups.
Thank
so
you.
That is
Thank
how.
you, Mr. Ankit. I move to the next panelist, Dr. Kavita. Is she there? Is Dr. Kavita there with us?
I think she has dropped off.
No, ma'am. No,
I think she lost the connection, I believe so. I'm moving to the next panelist, Dr. Macaulay. What role could government policies, government agencies, and private institutes play here to remedy some of the lingering logistic and accessibility issues?
Yeah, the government has brought out the SOP plans that the schools can follow. And at the same time, I think the government has initiated that attendance is not mandatory, and they can keep up like how they can send the children to the school. And again, to say the parents who wish to drop on their own can be dropped to the school. There are so many other areas where the government has given some liberty regarding running of the school. And moreover, when you take, as and how Ajit said, all the private schools can adopt the neighboring schools, and they can educate them more on this digital background, where the children who are coming to school on alternate days, and those who are going to use the online classes on the other alternate days will really find it to be very useful. So one way I have to say the government policies and the agencies, whatever they are planning and going about it, is all for the welfare of the children and for the school and for the soon reopening of the schools. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe along with all these just showing the SOPs for the future, government should also give some directives, some guidelines, taking the private agencies with them and develop the infrastructure where the internet issue and the other things can be looked after, because it's a long task. One or two person in individual capacity will not be do the needful together. Anyways, I move to my next panelist, Ms. Sakshi. In your view, what more could be done to better enable schools and educational institutions to collaborate and work together to help develop and promote the tools of blended learning model more effectively?
So yeah, for an effective use of blended learning tools, I think it is very important that all of us first understand what is blended learning. There are a lot of confusion. When I was also going through it, I was also confused, but then I understood that it is, teaching online, but not teaching computers. It is teaching tools through computer and not teaching tools to learn computer. So I think that is very important, that there we understand and how much it is important to keep ourselves updated with these technological tools. As sir also mentioned about a lot of tools that we could use. Yes, of course, I would tell her that recently I conducted one quiz competition across the city, and we were just trying to figure it out, that what can be used to make it really effective and efficient and interesting. So we got to know about this tool Mentimeter, which was a superb user-friendly tool, and we used it, and now we are getting requests to conduct it again and again. So we really need to be updated first. Second, it is really important that whatever tool you're using, firstly, it should be student-friendly, because at the end, the student is the end user. Second, it should be teacher-friendly, because teacher is the one who's going to operate it. And thirdly, should be cost effective, because the parents should not be burdened of buying new accessories to meet the educational needs of their children. So keeping in mind these things, we should use the tools. Next thing is the optimum use of technological tools. We cannot use it. I may not know technology that well, so the right person for this job is required, right? So then only we can assure the optimum use. Also, when we talk about blended learning, we will talk about station model, which is very famous in blended learning. So it is a model where there are stations. So there is a technology station, there is a discussion station, there is a teacher station. So group of students can meet at a station, they can work together, they can share their ideas, they can share their work according to their interest and needs. And this thing can actually help in the personalized experience of the student, which is happening at their pace, which is happening at the student's pace. So I think this way we can actually bring it a change, and we can promote blended learning.
Thanks, Ms. Sakshi. I move to my next panelist, Dr. Ritu. Let us talk something about NEP 2020, and it proposes creation of a vast public digital infrastructure that would facilitate online education across institutions in India with the internet to make quality content accessible to all. So, my question to you is, given our experience of the pandemic and the challenges we currently face in education, what areas should government agencies focus on when developing digital infrastructures to support high quality instructions across the country?
Yes, ma'am. I'll just take 2 minutes, as you said. So, first thing, yesterday's news, it is like 15 crore children or youth. They are out of our formal education system. That is the news of yesterday
True,
NDTV, which
true.
is really worrisome. Now, when it comes to government initiatives, let me just tell you there are only two areas, in my opinion, that government agencies should focus on if they want to be successful in this digital space. One is the user interface and another one is the connectivity. We are all talking about it. I'm just trying to summarize it. Now, user interface, or what you call devices like laptop, tablet, mobile phone, TV, whatever it may be, it should be provided to the students, and especially in rural areas, as Ankit sir was mentioning, because they cannot afford it. Connectivity, when I say, I mean to say all your Wi-Fi connection, internet and other facility. Suppose if the child has the mobile phone of his father or mother, if no connectivity, it is of no use. So if the government focus on these two things, one is user interface, another is connectivity, I think we can do wonders in the field of blended learning model. Many NGOs, as Pathak madam said, many NGOs and corporates, they are coming forward, including Infosys. My husband works with Samsung. So all these under their CSR program and all, they are coming forward. So if government joins their hand along with these corporates or NGOs and welcome them wholeheartedly, of course there are some policy decisions are there, then definitely government can actually make it better what situation we are in. And I'm not saying government has not done, as Kavita madam also mentioned, government has so many good resources when it comes to books, online material content. You must have heard about Shagun. We are talking about NEP. They are talking about, see, Diksha platform. When we say, it is for both teachers and students. E-Pathshala is there. Then your repository is there. Swayam is there. Swayam Prabha is there. So many, 32 I think DTS channels they have done. 24/7 students can see. So according to me, if we just focus on these two things, because one is required and another one for the connection, okay, device and connection. So government can do wonders if they work across India on these two things. Thank you. Ma'am, you are mute, ma'am.
I move to my next panelist, Ms. Malini. As leaders in the field of education, how should we view our roles in regards to enabling innovative solutions in the field of education?
So, Madam Pathak, I'd like to do this in two parts. One is innovation in the technology itself, because our expectations have to be met by the technology provider. Because we have found two areas where there is huge lacuna, and that is in the assessment. Because we had to restrict ourselves to MCQ questions. We couldn't really spend too much time on elaborate questions and all of that. So different kinds of questioning, you need a little better provider. Then the second was the proctored model of testing, because today children, even in online classes, are working on 2 to 3 devices parallelly. They multitask, which you and me can't do. They can work on 4 screens parallelly, and the teacher can keep continuing her teaching. So while you're testing on one screen, the answer is coming on second screen, and there's a WhatsApp answer coming on the 4th screen. So all that is happening, and we have really reached literally the tip of the mountain, because after that there is no jump. We've tried everything 2 screens, show your room, show your face, everything. So that's with regard to technology. But in terms of innovation of what we can do with this technology for enhancing the teaching learning process, we've been talking about coding, we've talking about gamification. All this is already available in technology. That means I want to improve my English vocabulary. There are enough games which take you to different levels. It's adaptive learning. And similarly for maths and science, there are beautiful websites which we can integrate and get in. So gamification is one part. Another important part is, I felt in this whole scenario, very little attention was paid to the welfare of the special children, specially able children. So we really need software which can do a text to voice to text, text to voice, that kind of thing, enlarging the font. So very small baby steps have been taken in this direction, but a lot more can be done. These are fields that we can actually put in. Of course, AR and VI are all technologies that have yet to be explored. We haven't reached there at all. We are still happy with our, online correction of this thing. So as more content comes in, I think we are going to be brilliant at using it. And last point that I want to mention is the data crunching that the teachers need to learn to do, because ultimately, when the PISA result came, we were 72nd. If our NSA happens, we will know the truth about how much the 3rd, 5th, and 8th standard children know in our schools. So the data analysis and empowering teachers to innovate using the data is, I think, another important innovation in this field. I'm so sorry if I've taken more than 2 minutes. You're on mute, ma'am.
I wanted to give a minute to each one of you, but I'm sorry, I'm short of time. I'll give just one sentence each one of you for the benefit of our audience. Could you share just in one sentence how the digital tools you have integrated in classroom practice in your institution, and that will likely stay even after we resume face-to-face teaching and learning? Any one particular tool which you feel and this will remain. Just one sentence.
Google Classroom.
Oh, are we going turn-wise?
Whichever way.
Okay, fine. So let me start since I finished. We are going to continue using Sway, which is an MS software. We used it for our digital magazine, and that's what we are going to continue using.
Next.
Okay. We will be continue using Google Classrooms.
Next.
Yeah,
I would like to say.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Please.
Yeah,
I would just like to say, I'm so sorry. Let me go first. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Ankit, please go.
Yeah, I would just like to say that let's keep adapting to these newer ways of blended learning and continue this journey where we are trying to improve our education system. Thank
you. Next.
Yeah, like we are using WebEx and we are using our LMS, which is more user-friendly. So we will be continuing with the same.
Great.
And we would keep using Zoom because we had a lot of expert session from overseas. We had sessions from teachers from Italy, Canada, and USA, and also we had a lot of field trips. We had a virtual trip to Kerala and Kashmir, and now we are taking our students to Germany. So yes.
All right. So it is sharp 5. I wish to take just 1 minute extra for concluding remark to wrap up this session. First thing, you all were excellent, and I'm sure our audience must have got a lot of benefit and some useful points. COVID-19 pandemic has caused massive disruption in the country's education system. However, it has also ushered in a digital revolution in education that could potentially enrich teaching learning experience by making it more differentiated and inclusive. adopting a blended learning model would be a natural and a sensible approach of making prudent use of several powerful digital applications, which you all have named and we are using, that have recently emerged from this revolution. However, it is also important to note that this stage that for a blended learning model to be effective, it must evolve organically rather than imported, so that it is tailored from the start to meet the unique need of our students and our institutions. This will require sharing of best practices, experience, and technical know-how among schools. This will also ensure that major stakeholders, students, teachers, and parents get time and proper environment to adopt new ways of teaching and learning. I would like to close this session by reiterating that we are witnessing here a remarkable revolution in education that is poised to change the way we interact, learn, and teach. We have achieved remarkable feats in the previous year, and by adopting new modes of teaching in a very short time, this has shed light on the latent creative potential that exists in the teachers community. A big round of applause for our teachers. We need to find ways to nurture this potential and deploy it to find ways to incorporate a blended learning approach in our regular classroom practice. I wish you all the best. Stay safe and stay healthy. Good evening, and hand over back to the host.
Thank you, Dr. Pathak, and it was a wonderful and insightful session we had here, and thanks to all the eminent panelists who made the session as interactive as possible and as insightful. With this, we come to a conclusion of the APAC second Global Education and Skills Conclave, which we had over the last 3 days. The first 2 days, the focus was on higher education and the universities and the other premier academic institutions. And today, the focus was on school education. And we discussed the different direction education in India is going to take, especially in the post-pandemic scenario. And also, we discussed about how the different kinds of technology can help drive in that specific direction. So we had a number of educationists, a number of bureaucrats, and senior academicians all participating in this program in the different sessions, conferences over the last 3 days, and it was a wonderful interacting with them. We all know in the post-pandemic scenario, education, be it school education or be it higher education in the universities, it's a challenge. Students have to undergo a different paradigm through which they have to go in this virtual education mode. However, thanks to the academicians like you all, India is sort of geared up to handle this challenge, and in future with blended learning and a hybrid kind of education model looking likely to be the likely scenario, I think your role will be enhanced further. For the APAC Global Education and Skills Conclave, I would like to thank the partners who associated with us, starting from the government of Gujarat, the government of Telangana, Education in Ireland, Coursera, ViewSonic, PayU, Globus, FlipLearn, IIM Rohtak, Chitkara University, HBB Global Academy, Intercell, Government of Andhra Pradesh, Government of Chhattisgarh, Government of Madhya Pradesh, Government of Uttarakhand, and TASC, without whose association an event of this magnitude and scale would not have been possible. Over the 3 days, we had more than 1,000 participants representing both schools and higher education who attended the program and watched the live deliberations and video. We will have all these videos recorded and uploaded on our websites also, so that those who missed the live telecast of it can watch it in future. And we would expect a similar cooperation from all of you in our endeavors in the future. So again, thanking all of you and wishing you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar.